We now know that Albanese is calling out so-called experts who have told him not to call for a royal commission, whilst this is being disputed by over 200 of Australia's most senior barristers, as well as the 17 families of the victims of that December 14 massacre. And now we know that Chris Minns is not going to follow up on the request by Kelly Sloan to put additional pressure on Prime Minister Albanese to call a royal commission. And I think what I find so breathtaking when it comes to Albanese's response to what happened at Bondi is his blatant refusal to even have the word anti-Semitism included in the terms of reference for the Richardson Review. And the fact that he's so focused on everything that's going to look at every agency and everybody else's response and their actions in the lead up to and after what happened at Bondi, but there will be no investigation into what his government and his ministers did. And there is absolutely no doubt, post-October 7, what happened in Israel, that this government's response has allowed that anti-Semitism to grow and to fester, and whether it's from what happened on the steps of the Opera House right through to the anti-Semitic attacks we've seen happening across the country. This government has had plenty of warning, but we know they've taken no action.
Exactly right. And it also just makes absolutely no sense. Alexander Downer was quoted in this article saying it is very unlikely that you would actually have intelligence agencies advising that there shouldn't be a royal commission. That is a government decision. And in fact, the head of the AFP was asked, did you recommend that the government does not pursue a royal commission? And she said, that's a matter for the government. So if Albanese was fair dinkum and actually had a shred of credibility, he would name the actual experts. Of course he won't, because they don't exist. And the only experts that might be advising him against the Royal Commission would be, I don't know, Tony Burke, probably his chief of staff, all his political advisors.
Penny Wong,
because they know what a Royal Commission would uncover. It would also be 2 years of terrible headlines and coincide with the next federal election, and he will never live this down. But I think, Angela, him digging in like this and just coming up with more and more bizarre excuses every day, I think it's making him look worse.
I think it's making him look worse. And look, I think the key thing, of course, is that he doesn't want to uncover the government's role in that growth and anti-Semitism. But I think there's another couple of factors at play. He is playing the 24/7 news cycle. He's so familiar. He's in his second term of government. He knows that stories move on quickly. What he hasn't reckoned on this time is the feeling, two things, the feeling within the populace that Australia is hurting, they're upset and they want answers. That's the first thing. The second thing is this is timed out for what we in the media call silly season. There is a news void, so there is not the wave of news flowing through to take this off the agenda. And I think that's a key fact that he has overlooked. This is going to continue, and if we were nearer to an election, this would be the end of him.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that he's like counting on the silly season and that news cycle. I think you're exactly right. He's just been waiting for this story to die down, and I don't think it's going anywhere, because this isn't something that just impacts Jewish Australians. This is leaving every Australian feeling unsafe, and it's attack on such an iconic place that I don't think it's going anywhere. And I've just got this feeling at some point he's going to have to call one, and it, sooner rather than later, Albanese, because the longer he waits, the worse it's going to get.
And it's also creating a wedge, and I'm sure behind the scenes, Chris Minns is personally infuriated with the government. He's, of course, called for a state royal commission, but now opposition leader Kelly Sloan has come out and written to him and said, you need to urge Albanese to call a federal royal commission. Minns is trying to downplay, going, look, I've made my decision, they're making their decision, it's all good. But it's not, because if you've called one at a state level, why won't your Labor counterpart call one at a federal level? So I think, if anything, Chris Minns stepping up to the plate from a political perspective has actually made Albanese look even
Incredibly
worse.
weak.
And it's eroded his position. And I do wonder as well, behind the scenes in the Labor caucus, you've got 94 Labor MPs there, huge caucus. surely there are some ambitious people there. They would be looking at this going, this is our chance. If we're going to remove Albanese as a leader, he has failed so catastrophically in his handling of Bondi, this would be the time to strike, I would think.
Absolutely. And I think some MPs have already suggested that they are in favour of a Royal Commission. I think it's also interesting optics for the Liberals because it's the first time we've seen any cohesion for months with them. So I think that's a really interesting thing to have observed as well.